Hi, everyone. My name's Kirk. I'm an alcoholic. It's not my favorite thing to do, least favorite thing to do, especially up here on the stage behind the podium, broadcast to America. Hi, America. But it's a privilege to be up here, and I'm very grateful to be here. Um, the speaker last week talked about people saying they're a grateful alcoholic. And I'm not grateful I'm an alcoholic. I'm grateful that AA was here and that I found AA and that you people showed me how to stop drinking and how to start living. So I have a sobriety date. It's June 1st, 2021. And that's not my first sobriety date. It's not even my second sobriety date. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. I've kind of learned what to do and what not to do in AA through those experiences. So let me go into what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And what it was like is not really as important as what I was like. It's my feelings and my view of things, my perception of things, and how I reacted to those that really mattered and what shaped my reality. I say this every time. I feel like I'm a broken record every time I share, but this was really a big event in my life, and it happens to a lot of people, but it really affected me. I had a great childhood. My mom is super awesome. She had a little college education, but worked her way up and ended up as a director of advanced micro devices when she retired. So she's like my hero. My dad, he was an alcoholic. And when I was about 8 or 9, she got tired of it and kicked him out. And he would visit for a while. I'd go spend the weekends with him, and then he just stopped coming around. And, I was 10 years old. I was like, where's my dad? Why doesn't my dad want to see me? And I saw him one other time at his mom's funeral, my grandma's funeral. And we were in the same room and he didn't talk to me. I still can see him walking by me, looking me in the face and not saying a word. And that really shaped how I felt about myself. It was, what is wrong with me? My own dad doesn't want to talk to me. My own dad doesn't love me. What is wrong with me? And so that's the way I grew up. I just had no self-confidence, no self-worth. And I fought a lot because of it. I wasn't taught, my family we weren't touchy-feely. We didn't talk about our feelings. We took care of business. That was my mom. She took care of business. So I never learned to deal with anything. And at 13 years old, alcohol, I had drinks before and I had a little drink, but I never had that aha moment until one day after school. It wasn't alcohol like Debbie likes to say. It was the driest martini I ever had. And it was that moment that I had that relief, all those feelings went away, and it was just like the best ever. And there's a lot of drugs in my story, but I won't talk about them too much. There's a lot of drugs in my story. But it was alcohol. Alcohol was always readily available pretty much. Shortly after that experience, I would be at home and I'd be stealing my parents' liquor, pouring it, drinking it, and putting water back in it. Home alone at 13 years old, drinking and getting hammered. Might have been a sign that I had a problem. I drank alcoholically right from the beginning. And that just continued. It just continued and continued. I never really broke from drinking. There was no breaks until I got to AA at 48 years old. So, we rack up the consequences, right? Divorces, I'm being a bad parent, another divorce. And we just rack up those consequences that I didn't put two and two together that alcohol was the problem, right? I just had bad luck. Everybody gets divorced, everybody gets DUIs, right? It's just part of life, right? And I had no intention of quitting drinking. God tricked me into quitting drinking. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I just got so sick from drinking. I mean, I was so sick. I had to have my ex-wife drive me to the doctor and fill out paperwork because I was just a trembling, shaky mess. I mean, I was really sick. And so my doctor said, "Oh, we have this program, they'll call you." And I heard this spiel before, right? We have a program for you. Someone will call you, and I'd either not answer, or I'd say not show up. Well, this time I showed up because I was desperate. I was dying. I was poisoning myself. And I could say a little bit about that. My brother, he's also an alcoholic. Well, I can't call him an alcoholic. He can decide that for himself, but he almost died. He didn't stop drinking, and he almost died. They thought he wasn't going to make it from alcohol. He was in the ICU for 3 weeks. So I'm so blessed that I found Alcoholics Anonymous. But I went to this intake of this program, and the guy was like, "Hey, we got this program. It's 8 weeks long. It's all day long for 8 weeks." And I was like, "Hey, I have a son to raise. I have bills to pay. There's no way I can take off work for 8 weeks." And he said, "I really recommend you do this." And these weird words came out of my mouth. I said, "Okay, I'll be here tomorrow." And I went out and I quit my job and I showed up, and that started me on this path. And when I went there, I didn't go to quit drinking. I went to quit drinking for a little bit so I could start drinking again, and not die. I used to love drinking, if I could drink like a normal person, I'd do it all the time. So I started doing AA, was part of the program, and I really jumped into AA. Problem is I didn't get a sponsor. Well, I got a few sponsors, but I wasn't working the steps. And I relapsed at 90 days. And talk about incomprehensible demoralization. I was pouring vodka down my throat and crying, "I'm sorry, I suck, I'm such a loser." But I came right back to AA. It was a one night thing. It started with, I'm going to have a beer, right? I'm going to have a beer and not tell anybody, and just nobody will know. Just take the edge off. Well, that's how it worked out. I was right back at the liquor store, just like our big book says. So I came back. I got a good sponsor. The guy was awesome. God did it to me again. This guy had 13 months. He was younger than me. I needed an old guy that had been around 30 years to teach me. God put us together, and he was the best thing that ever happened to me. And so I worked the steps, right? I got better. And I'm just doing the deal. I'm doing service. Love and Service has been my home group for 10 years now. And I'm doing the deal, and COVID hit. And, I just didn't adapt. Everyone else adapted. They started going to Zoom meetings. I hated Zoom meetings. And I would stop talking to my sponsor, and some things happened. I was engaged. I was resentful. The engagement wasn't going well. And I drank again. And at this time, alcoholism, it's tricky, that old adage that it's out there doing push-ups. I used to hate that saying, but it is so true. It's so true for me. I decided there was something happened, and I was like, that's it. I'm getting hammered. I'm gonna have a drink. No, I bought a 12-pack and a fifth of vodka, and I was like, I'm gonna get hammered. I'll go back to AA tomorrow. Well, 2.5 weeks later, I'm running from the CHP. I end up in the hospital. I wasn't talking to my sponsor. Well, as soon as I got away from the CHP, I called my sponsor and said, "I need your help." And I came back to AA. And I had to have my boss drive me to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack. Well, it was alcohol withdrawals. So there was a couple things that happened there that had never happened to me before. I'm an alcoholic. Guess what? I'm an alcoholic. These are the things we do. And so I came back and I started all over. And it was a humbling experience, but it was what was necessary. I had to raise my hand. I had to start the steps all over. Um, and I'm thoroughly convinced I'm an alcoholic now. There's no doubt in my mind that I am powerless over alcohol. Um, it's funny, my girlfriend's not here, so I haven't lied to you yet. But she's a normie, right? And so I'm around alcohol a lot. She has a glass of wine or two a night, not every night. I went to my nephew's wedding and everybody was drinking, and it doesn't bother me. Um, she got a little tipsy. It was kind of annoying, but it was funny. It was funny. She had fun. So, but I was okay with it because I know I can't have a drink, right? Um, because I know the path I go down. It's not one drink. I cannot stop once I start drinking, right? I have the allergy of the body, the obsession of the mind. I have 2 more minutes. So yeah, I can talk a little bit about this. So my spirituality, before I came to AA, I believed in something, creator, divine intelligence, creator of the universe. I wasn't religious. But when I got to AA, and I told you a couple examples that I saw God act in my life, and that started me down this spiritual journey, and that journey has continued. I went to Thailand. I've been to Thailand a couple times, and I was amazed at the people there. Everyone is so nice, and the traffic. The thing that caught my attention was the traffic's insane, right? I mean, it's crazy, but nobody's honking at each other. Nobody's flipping each other off. Everybody's just going their way, getting where they need to go. And so I started looking at Buddhism, and it's a lot of the same principles. It's designed for living. And so the spiritual journey I'm taking, I've heard there's believers and there's seekers. And I continue to seek, my God is not the same God I had, but I still believe I'm still on a spiritual journey. And that's what I need to replace what I was seeking before. And it's just been, like I say, I'm so blessed. I got a good job. Sometimes I feel I have imposter syndrome, like this isn't me. I shouldn't have this job. If they knew who I really was, but that is who I am now. I mean, look at me. I'm wearing a coat and I'm speaking at a podium in front of 75, 80 people. This is who I am now. And it's due to AA, and it's due to all of you. You guys really showed me, how to act. You guys took me by the hand and were patient with me, very patient. My sponsee, he always says when he speaks, he always talks about how patient I am with them. I have never been accused of being patient with anybody in my life. Every time he says it, I'm like, who is he talking about? That's not me. But you guys taught me that, and that is me now. Like I say, I'm grateful beyond words for Alcoholics Anonymous and you guys being here. And I try and, continue that. I try and be of service. I've slacked off a little bit lately. I've had some health issues and not getting to as many meetings as I should, but I have that experience is you stop going to AA and I know what happens. So I stick around. And I'm going to stop now. I got the big red stop sign, and I'm going to introduce Thomas.
My name is Thomas. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks, Kirk. That's funny. It's a stop sign. I didn't know that. I've got a sobriety date. My sobriety date's June 6th of 2011. I have a home group. It's Love and Service right here. And I've got a sponsor. He's out there somewhere. So I talk to him Monday through Friday. So, and Saturday, actually. I take him to a meeting Saturday. Anyway, so my alcoholic story, I was thinking about it during during Kirk's share, because I don't talk about the initial often, but I grew up, I'd say a pretty good kid at this point. I used to have a harder opinion on that. I got suspended from school once growing up, confirmed Catholic, so I'd like rigid doctrine, I guess. That's probably the best way to describe that. And so I hadn't taken a drink until I was 18. And when I took a drink, it was something in the variety of this. It was my buddy was babysitting this house. I was 17, 18. I can't really remember. And I think the people that were on vacation said, okay, you can have like the 6-pack in the fridge, right? You guys want to split a beer? That's great. We believe in that. And I proceeded to steal all the beer in that house, drink it all, blacked out, got into a fight, locked in a bathroom, lost a shoe. They couldn't find me. It was great. I was off to the races. I love alcohol. I would not be up here if I didn't love alcohol. And I still love it today. I don't drink today. So for me, what happened though was that, I didn't become an alcoholic out the gate. I didn't say, okay, well, put my, trench coat and go get under a bridge. And, what happened to me was that I went to college and I was like maintaining through college. I was a little bit of a binge drinker in college, but I was not an everyday drinker in college. It didn't happen for me. I'd say the switch was probably not flipped until I got into the working world. And what happened to me was that, I was living my own and the pressures of work started to mount and I need to take the edge off and I need to take that job every night. And then I'm becoming a bar drinker. And then I'm, and I have responsibilities at this point. I have clearances and I'm hanging out with these guys that are running drugs and I shouldn't be doing that. And what happens to me is my drinking turns into an everyday thing at that point. There's like a rapid progression to it where I'm essentially not having a good time in my skin, but on the other hand, I need alcohol on a daily basis. And I remember one of the things that was super embarrassing for me was that my sister had come over to one of these drug houses I was in. I was in this house. I've got swatted many times and I shouldn't be there. And so I'm sitting there and I'm digging through this couch looking for a pill I dropped. And my little sister of all people walks in the door, which was very random. This is a chaotic environment. And she wasn't looking for me. She was just hanging out with her little girlfriends and they were going around. And I was absolutely ashamed and embarrassed, even though it was like 3 sheets to the wind. And there's all sorts of stuff I've done drinking. There's all sorts of, we all have the stories, the gnarly stories, but that for me was so embarrassing, because I really love my little sister. What happened was that I got a DUI. I got a DUI and my job was very uptight about it. They ordered me to therapy, right? And because I'm, fighting at work too. And in addition, I started seeing the drug and treatment counselor. And what happens is I'm not gonna buy this AA thing, right? I'm not gonna do it, right? Out the gate, I go to these meetings and there's like a little old grandma and she's like got 5 DUIs and she's drinking every night. She's drinking a handle. And I'm like, oh my God, like these are the kind of people this thing is for. It's not me. I'm not gonna do this, right? I'm not a joiner. I'm a fringer, I'm a fringer. I want to sit out the outside and make snarky comments like it's a 90s movie or something. That's my job, right? That's what God put me on this earth to do. And what happens is I start to go to these AA meetings. Well, I go to my first AA meeting. And at the time I've been drinking my buddy and he was a very sick individual. He was going through a divorce and all this stuff. And he was living on base. And so I call him up and I say, hey man, I go to my first meeting. It's like this, some guy dressed in a suit. There's 2 businessmen up there. I didn't hear anything they said. I just saw what they were. And I said, hey man, I think I'm gonna try out Alcoholics Anonymous. This looks like something that might be interesting. And he said, A's for quitters. Click. That was it. It was the end of the relationship. We didn't have anything in common other than drinking, you know? There was a lot of my relationships. A lot of my relationships were around drugs or alcohol. And what happened to me was that I started attending AA, but not really joining, right? I listened to like I saw what you guys were doing, and you'd like talk about the same stuff over and over and over and over again. And there was no thread of conversation. These people just bounce around and talk about anything, right? Like, oh my God, these people are schizophrenic. And I'd sit there and try to suss out, okay, well, like, what are they, what's the give here? Like, what are these people getting at this, right? Money? Like, what is it, right? Like, I'm not seeing it. And eventually what happens is I keep coming back because I'm not listening. I'm listening for words to discard, but I'm attracted to the emotions and positive feelings that are in these places, these, you know, pockets of enthusiasm that I think what Clancy used to call. And that's what happens to me. I didn't mean to become a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I definitely did not want to stop drinking. I've relapsed many times. And eventually I landed into this home group called Hope is here in Alexandria. It's at 8:30 on Tuesdays and in the East Coast in Virginia. And these people were a bunch of AA Nazis. And AA Nazis look like this. They're very excited to see you. They're very excited to see you, no matter what condition you're in. They want to be your friend. It seems like they want to be your friend. But there's conditions around that friendship. And for me, I didn't have, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. There was nowhere else for me to go. I had burnt down the majority of my relationships with my family and friends. And what happened to me is I fell into this home group of these little Nazis, and they chant about the steps. And we go around to meetings and stuff. We do this sort of thing. And what happened is that, you know, eventually I got a sponsor, and he started talking about fourth and fifth step. And through peer pressure, and I would say a incessant need to not fall behind sort of my little pack of guys, because it's mostly young guys in this group. As I started to take the steps and do the actions of Alcoholics Anonymous, I started making cakes at this meeting. They made me the cake maker, you know, and I was like, I don't want to make cakes, but I'm going to bake the best cakes you got. So I would go find recipes off the internet. I make like a Texas sheet cake and like these like things, you know, this like king cake and, you know, it's the little baby in it, right? And I would do these things because I was just a snarling newcomer, right? And I remember my sponsor at the time, it was me and this other guy, Ian, right? And Ian's sober today, but he had a harder path than me. And he was like putting bets on the both of us, right? Whether we would get sober or not, you know. We were mean with each other. It was guys, you know. My sponsor was like Olympic bodybuilder. And he was like, I don't think you're gonna make it, Thomas. And I was like, oh, I hate this guy. Let's stay sober, no matter what happens. And Ian was doing all the perfect things. He was the perfect sponsee, right, for this guy, you know? And he went out. And there I am sitting in the back, snarling, gritting my teeth, you know, holding the chair at every meeting, you know? But I'm there, you know, I'm doing the thing. And, you know, eventually I blundered into a lot of good home groups, you know, Hope is here and, you know, Midtown. And, you know, I've blundered into like Love and Service and a couple other places. I've bounced around geographically. And what's happened is that, you know, those home groups have saved my life. They were focused on that new person that comes in the door like me, that did not want to be there, that had no interest in doing the things that we do, right? But that had no other place to go, you know? They saved my life because they were active in service. You know, my sponsor would make me take these service commitments. He didn't volunteer me. He didn't ask me. He told me, you're going to do this, right? And And he was bigger than me. So, I mean, what do you say? So, and eventually I moved on from that home group, but I took those principles, I took those core things, that I had a responsibility at Alcoholics Anonymous to show somebody that there was something different up on the podium than what they'd seen out there, that, that same old life existed for me. I go back to it any time, a lot of those guys are dead, but today I'm extremely grateful for my sobriety, because of that, because of those little Nazis that took me around their car and made me do stuff and argue, and they'd listen to me argue with them. I think about that today, and today I'm not one of those people who say, you don't like it, okay, that's all I got. That's all I can do. But anyway, I just want to say thank you for saving my life. It's an honor to speak here. And thanks, Lisa, for inviting me. Appreciate it. That's all I got. Thanks.
So there's Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm an alcoholic. And I've never seen this room from this view before, but it's nice. Yeah, my sobriety date is July 10th, 2010. And I'm really surprised that I have kept that date. I'm grateful for it, but the things that have happened to me since I got that date have just revolutionized my whole thinking. It's really, really great to be a part of life last. Let's see. Well, when I first got sober, I was living back at my mother's house, and I was 45 years old, and I had nothing to show for it. And from that time, that was 3 years I spent there. My mom was she didn't get out of the house. She did a lot. She had a lot of things wrong with her. She didn't walk, and she was kind of housebound, and there were a lot of alcohol and other substances around the house. And I was newly sober, and I got to tell you that from the beginning until I moved out of that house, I didn't once think about doing anything. I didn't think of it. It didn't come into my mind. I just filled my life with AA. And I believe that's when I came in and sat all the way down. And after that, I was grateful enough to have somebody stay in my life. His name is Lonnie, and he's the only person that stayed in my life longer besides my family. And he just took me in, and I moved in in 2013 in Antioch. And from that time, my life just started, just magical things happening. I started building recovery, or building my life of recovery. And funny things happen, like I happen to be one of those people that I was like, remember that movie with Tom Hanks? What was the name of it? Yeah. I happen to be that lady sitting on the bench that Tom Hanks is talking to about his life. People just open up to me like that, and I just find it so exhilarating. I had one time I had a lady come up, and I did not even know her, but she recognized me from something, and she just came up and she laid her hand on me and she just started talking and going on. And of course, in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, this lady's going to suck the life out of me, you know. But actually, it was really interesting. She just stood there and it like gave her an anchor, and she was able to talk to some people and just kind of fit in. And after that experience, it was like, what an honorary thing to do for somebody, you know, what a beautiful thing to help somebody that way. And that's a lot of things happen to me like that. And I mostly see you guys from online, so I'm a little nervous, you know, but that's that's all right. This home group has carried me for a long time. And I am so honored to be able to start giving back to it. You know, it has helped me grow up. It has loved me until I could love myself. It has taught me how to walk through experiences with dignity and grace. I lost my sister in 2003. She passed from cancer. And at the time, I remember looking up and just saying, what do I do with this? And the only thing I heard was pass it on, share it. And then I lost my mom in 2014 at Christmas. And once again, you're gonna help somebody with this. And then that following February, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I looked up and I said, what am I going to do with this? You're going to share it. You're going to help somebody. And so that's what I'm doing now. I am finding people coming into my life that are struggling with some of these things. And I have two sponsees that are just the world of me. They just fill me up. I'm coming up on a large operation I'm going to be having in September. And I was so, it just consumed my head. And then all of a sudden this lady called me and she was one day sober and said, will you sponsor me? And I just know that was him. I just know it's like, okay. I had never had a sponsee from the beginning. And it's just so amazing. It's such a wonderful experience. And some of the other things I have learned to do, when my sister passed, my mom was not herself, and she wasn't. And at the reception, I had done something I had never done before, but I had seen it done every time I come here. And that is, I stood up and I greeted every single person that came through our house. And I introduced them to my mom, and I talked with everybody. And that is just huge. That is just huge. It was like God was using me again, you know, and life is just so interesting in AA. It just, you never know what's coming, but you know it's going to be great. And got about 5 more minutes, don't I? Oh my, okay. I've had a few sponsors in the time that I've been in, and I have carried something from each one of them. And at the time, they were just what I needed. And I finally ended up back with my sponsor who I got sober with. And Zoom is a wonderful thing. You can be anywhere at any time. And so I'm grateful for that. I don't know what to say. So my mom had a really hard time when my sister passed. She was never the same. And it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. She just didn't come out of it. And it was, let's see, it was about a month before my mom passed, and we're coming up on Thanksgiving, and I was trying to do the best I can to give her the greatest Thanksgiving I could. And so I told her all the people that were coming, and she goes, "Wait a minute, we need one more." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" "We need a seat for Lori." It's my sister's name. And I realized what I had been watching, my mom's heartbreak from that time. And I am just so grateful that I was able to be there for her and take care of her while she was going through this, and not judge her, but just accept her for who she was and what was going on. And I have no idea what it feels like to lose a daughter, but I'm so glad I was able to be one for her. And time goes slow up here, doesn't it? For the longest time, I was not able to get up and speak in front of people. I would just shake and, just unable to get a word out and just be so ashamed. But I don't know, something changed. I'm different. And I'm grateful for this group. And 1 minute, thank you. One thing that I have learned from my higher power, and that is, if you find yourself in uncomfortable territory, just dive in, because your higher power will either catch you or it'll teach you how to fly. That was good, wasn't it? Thank you.